All right, this video will focus on Chapter 2, Section 3. And when we look at this, the very first thing I want you to do is start out by just trying to subtract these. You'll notice that this is different from the 2.2 because those were addition problems in between. And these are subtraction problems here. So take a moment, try to solve them. All right, so let's take a look at what you did here. So if we skip through, we have here are the various answers. A couple things I want you to remember as you went through here. If they're both the same, we're just simply adding them together and keeping the sign the same. If you have one positive and one negative, notice that we're adding them together. In this case, if I have 62, the opposite of negative is actually a positive. So this becomes 62 plus 29, which is 91. In this one here, I have negative 87, but I have minus a negative, which again is a positive 12. So I'm going to rewrite this just so you see it. It is negative 87. And since these negative signs are right next to each other, you're like multiplying them together, it becomes a positive, and then I have 12. And again, if I take the absolute value of these numbers, this would be 87 and this would be 12. 87 is much larger, therefore your answer has got to be a negative. So I'm going to go through here and take 87, 12, I'm going to subtract them, I'm going to get 75, but my answer has to be negative because the larger value was negative. And that's how these work. Now the essential question is, how can you use what you know about subtracting integers to subtract rational numbers? So again, very similar to what we did in 2.2. We're going to go back through the same thing we did before, where we're going to write these out. So we start at 0, move to the left at 1.5, and then move to the left another half. And that's how you get to negative 2. You can do that for all of these. Notice that the values, or the fractions at least up here, are the same. So let's do that. And we have 6/10 minus. Now it's hard when it's 1 3/10 because really that 1 3/10, I'm going to write that down here, 1 3/10. As an improper fraction, 1 whole would be 10/10, right? And then I have 3/10 as well. So I could decompose and recompose this number to 10/10 and 3/10. Altogether that equals 13/10. I'm doing that because it's a little bit easier when I look at this and I say 13/10. Now I can go through here, I know my denominator is tenths, and I could take 13 and 6, the absolute value of them. 13 is definitely larger than 6, but it's a negative answer, right? So I'm going to put a negative sign down, and then 13 minus 6 is going to be 7. So I have negative 7/10 is my answer. And we do that for all of these, same kind of steps. Next one, it says here, plot these numbers on the number line. So it says plot negative 3 and 2 in the number line, then find negative 3 and negative 2, and 2 negative or minus a negative 3, and what do you notice about the results? So let's just try this real fast. I'm going to go here. All right, so if I plot negative 3, so I'll say negative 3 and positive 2. And then it says, and find the difference here, and it would be 5, right? The difference between them is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's good. The other one is negative 3 and negative 2. Well, that's over here. And then 2 minus negative 3. So I have 2 minus a negative. So that goes this way. And that becomes over here. For this one here, we have to go through and actually subtract all these. So the red represents actually spending money, and the black here represents depositing money into a checking account. So if I look here and I take 100 minus 34.57, I'm subtracting it, and that's how I get to 65.43. So I'll write that down. So 65, that's my new balance, 65.43. And now I'm going to take 65.43, and now we're going to add or deposit $875.50. And I get $940. So I'm going to go over here, and now my new balance is $940.93. And then I'm going to take away 40. I'm going to take away 78.43. I'm going to take away 10.55. I'm going to take away 47.21. So of course it's getting to be a lot lower every time. I'm now at 764, so I'm going to write that down. 764.74. All right, now I'm going to add 125 to that. And I'm going to add $2.12. And now I'm at 127. Oh boy, there's something wrong there. Try that again. So luckily I wrote this number down here. So I have 764.74. I'm going to add 125. I'm going to add $2.12. There you go. So I'm at 891.86. Sorry, it's hard to write in this one. And then I'm going to subtract 59.99, 65.54, and $75. And I should get 691.33. So let's write this down here. 691.33. And that's how you'd figure out the balances of all these. Now, remember that it's really beneficial to write these down. You saw before that I made a mistake myself, and it was really helpful to have that number here so I can keep on doing this. This is why you might see your parents actually keep track of their balance on a checkbook or something, for that very reason. Now it says here, what's a different way to find the balance in part B? So we could have done what we did here. Another thing that some people do is they'll add up all the positives first of all. So I take 100 plus 87.50 plus 125 plus 212, get an answer, and then add up all the negative numbers, get an answer, and subtract those two together. And when you do that, you'll get 691.33 as well. So explain how a minus b and a plus negative b are equivalent, and create an example to explain it. So let's do that right now. Let's go over here and start off with, let's say 7 minus 5, right? And that equals 2. But I could also take 7 plus negative 5, and that also equals 2. Let's demonstrate it though. So I have a number line, and I'm at 7. So I have 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And I'm going to start off at 7, and I'm going to go to the left 5 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I end up at 2. In addition, or another way to do that is to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I start off at 7, just like I did before. And now I'm adding negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same exact thing. I end up at 2. So that's why they're equal to each other. Write fractions in simplest forms. So here's something that's really interesting. If you look at this, negative 7, and I have minus 5/7. Well, this is just like integers or whole numbers. I'm going to owe somebody $7. I owe them 5/7 of a dollar all together. I'm going to owe them 7 and 5/7. And then we'll continue on, and you would change these to tenths, and so on. I mean, it's always the same thing over and over again. Remember that if you have two negatives here, they become a positive, so this number is actually getting bigger. So this would be like 23.8, I think. So again, the key idea is to subtract rational numbers, use the same rule as you use for integers. It's exactly the same thing. So if I have negative 4 1/7 minus negative 6/7, again, these two here become a positive, right? So you basically have negative 4 1/7 plus 6/7. I would probably change these to improper fractions. So this would be negative 29/7 plus 6/7, so negative 23/7. For this one here, we're just subtracting. Again, you take the absolute value, and the 21 is definitely larger than a 28, or to the 12. So I'm just going to take 21.6 minus 12.8, get my answer, and put the negative sign on it. So I get negative 8.8. This one here, it's going to be 1/3 plus 1/3, which is 2/3. I'm going to change this to sixths and go through. And again, we're going to add these together because they're both negatives. So here are the answers. Finding the distance between these two here, we'll have to take 2 1/3 to 0 is 2 1/3, and then subtract another 2 2/3 to go down here. So altogether, I went 4 3/3, which is 5, right? So in this case, the answer is 5. So it says in the water, the bottom of a boat is 2.1 feet up below the surface, and the top is 8.7 feet above. Towed on a trailer, the bottom of the boat is 1.3 above the ground. Can the boat and trailer pass under the bridge? Oh, interesting. So if we look here, I drew a beautiful picture. And what I did is I took basically the 8.7 feet is above the water, and then it goes down to 2.1. So I said 8.7 minus negative 2.1. So that boat, the height of the boat is actually 10.8 feet high, right? Then it's on a trailer, and the trailer is 1.3 feet off the floor or the ground. So I added these two together, 1.3 and 10.8, for a grand total of 12.1 feet, which is awesome until you run into a bridge that's 11.8 inches. And if that happens, you crash.